What's up, life designers? Welcome to this week's episode of Intentional Tuesday. We are going to be talking this week about ambition, the role of ambition in your life. And if you find that you might be lacking ambition, we are going to get into some of the reasons why that might be happening and some of the ways that you might be able to go about rekindling your life ambition. So if that sounds interesting to you, stick with us because we're going to jump right in. So, first question, what is the role of ambition in your life right now? In the write up down below, I suggested that you might think of ambition as a bridge. Now, in life, we know that a bridge connects two disparate locations and it bridges a gap between those two locations. In this case, the gap is the difference between the way things are right now and the way things could be, whether that be something very personal in your life or whether that be something that you notice about the world. It's the gap between the way things are right now and the way that you sense that things could be, presumably in a better way. That is what creates the room for ambition. Once you notice that gap between the way things are and the way they could be, it creates a tension. And that tension is where ambition comes in because it's your willingness and your desire to close that gap. We've all experienced this type of tension or this noticing of gaps in our lives, and it can happen in any aspect of your life. In the case of a job, you might have a job that you go to every single day, and that job may be better or worse. But on the other hand, you could feel, what would it be like if I was to maximize my impact and maximize my influence in this job every single day? And between those two realities, you would start to feel a gap. And that is where ambition might come in because that would become the desire to do something about that gap. Now, that type of gap can be incredibly powerful, and yet it doesn't always work. It's not always enough to get us into motion. Now, why might that be? In the write up down below, I describe the phenomenon whereby people develop in a sense, kind of an allergy to the idea of ambition. Rather than holding it as a bridge to make the world better or to make things more right in the world, they're holding ambition as a ladder, to use a metaphor. And when you hold ambition as a ladder, you're constantly having to reconcile the idea of, if I have to climb this ladder, does that mean I have to climb over people? And maybe that's not something that you're comfortable doing. So you don't like that idea. Or if I'm constantly focusing on climbing this ladder higher and higher, doesn't that mean I'm losing sight of other important pieces of my life? So maybe the idea of ambition starts to feel like something that maybe I don't really want more ambition. These are definitely some ways that you might undermine your own ambition. Now, of course, that's not the only way that people undermine their ambition. Really, what it comes down to, I think, are two fundamental fears or two questions that might be coming up for you that are really kind of undermining your ambition. The first one is when you sense that there's a difference between the way things are and the way things could be. The first thing that might get in your way is a fear or a belief that you can't do anything about it, that you are not empowered to affect change in a meaningful way. If that's the way that you are looking at the situation, you are not going to be seeking out ambition because you feel like there's nothing that you can do about it, so you're not going to. And ambition is that whole movement piece of the equation. So that's the first thing that might be going on for you. The second thing that might be happening is you sense that the amount of work that you're going to have to put in to make the situation better is going to cost you more than the potential benefits. So let's take a step back. When you notice there's a difference between the way things are and the way things could be, that creates pain in your life. And it may seem a bit weird to call it pain, but it really does create some degree of suffering because you now feel that things are not as good as they could possibly be. So you've got that amount of pain. We'll put that on a scale over here. On the other side of the scale, you've got the amount of work that it's going to take in order to affect change. And that might be painful. It might cause you to expend resources. It might take time. It might take energy. You might have to suffer in order to make a change. The question then becomes, which side has more pain? So if you think, or even if you don't consciously think this, but if your brain is doing the calculation without your awareness, if your brain is saying the work is going to outweigh the benefit, then you are not going to seek out that ambition. You're gonna push those voices down, because you're basically saying, well, I don't want to do that work because it's going to cost me more than the benefits are going to that it's going to yield. So now the problem with these two beliefs or these two ways of seeing things is that they're almost certainly wrong. The reality is that you are almost certainly more empowered to make a change, to affect change in this particular area of your life than you are giving yourself credit for. And that is almost always the case. We almost always downplay our ability to make significant change in challenging areas of our life. And the second reason why this is flawed thinking, if you will, is that you are almost certainly overstating how hard it is going to be to make change, and you might very well be understating the benefits. But usually, for sure, people overstate how difficult it's going to be to make change. Okay, so I know I put a lot of heavy, complex things on the table this week, and I want to just kind of take a step back and put it all into perspective, because in some way, this whole discussion is really everything that we are up to at the Life Design Center. It's really the work we do here is really designed toward helping you to bridge the gap between the way things are and the way they could be. As a takeaway, what I really want from you this week is to just notice the ways or the areas of your life where you see a delta, a gap between the way things are and the way things could be. Just simply notice those gaps. And from those gaps, notice the nature of the ambition that is arising for you. And as you look at your ambition, ask yourself, do I think of ambition as a bridge to close that gap, a bridge to make the world better, a bridge to make things more right with the world than they already are? Or do I see ambition as a ladder, as something really to be avoided, because ambition really kind of leads to negative behaviors and negative consequences? And noticing which metaphor is more operative in your life is really, really useful. Because without ambition, of course, nothing happens, nothing changes without some level of ambition. So it's really useful to get a sense of where your ambition comes from and how much of it you have and why or why not. So hopefully you have found this to be a useful, insightful exploration. And as always, I really appreciate the time that you take out of your busy week to spend here with me on the Intentional Tuesdays. It means a lot to me. And if you haven't done so already, feel free to subscribe to Intentional Tuesdays. You'll get these messages delivered right into your inbox. You won't even have to lift a finger to go find the Intentional Tuesdays episodes. And if you have anybody else in your life who you think might benefit from also hearing these messages, feel free to send them a link to the podcast, a link to the website Life Design Center. Send them a recommendation to check us out. I would really appreciate anything you would do to spread the word. So with that, I wish you all the best, and we will catch you next week. Until then, prosperous journey. Take care.